Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Salome Mwangi with the Idaho Office for Refugees, the Refugee Speakers Bureau. And tonight I have the pleasure of talking to Lila Cabrera with the Learning Lab. And I know that we met several years ago, but I'm so glad that our paths have crossed again. And I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know where you come from originally.
Okay, my name is Lila Cabrera, and like Salomon said, I work for a place called the Learning Lab here in Boise, and our the Learning Lab is a place where it's a family literacy center where people come to learn different skills all around education. I am originally from Venezuela, from La Guaira, Venezuela, and my parents immigrated to the United States when I was small, and they immigrated to New York City. And I grew up in New York City, always with a lot of, in an ethnic neighborhood in New York with a lot of Latins, mostly people from the Caribbean. And, it was an immigrant experience for sure, except with a little twist that my mom always sent my brother and I back home. She always called it home, even though we lived in New York City for 30 years. But home, we went home for the whole summer, where I lived with my grandparents all summer, and just hung out at the beach and cooked and was in Venezuela. And then I got to Idaho about 21 years ago through coming. My husband got a job here in Boise, and we liked it and decided to stay. So I've been here ever since.
That is so cool. I'm glad that your husband got a job here and that you liked Boise.
Yeah, we didn't think we would stay, but yeah, we really liked it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And I know that earlier we were talking about the Learning Lab and the program that you have that works with the community schools. Do you mind just mentioning a little bit what that is about?
Sure. So for the last 4 years, the Learning Lab has had a partnership with the Boise School District to bring educational opportunities into, the community schools. And the community schools in Boise started about 6 years ago, and it's a school that the principal has decided that they want to have more of a community presence, not just with the children. So they have to designate a specific place where the community can come in and receive different kind of services. For example, food bank, clothing bank, financial education, those kinds of things. And some of the schools have a lot of parents who are learning English, or English is not their first language, or also students or parents who never finished high school and would like to get a GED. So we have this partnership with this 4 community schools in Boise, where the community school coordinators identified that that was a need in that community. So for the last 4 years, I have brought the Learning Lab program into the community schools and have been teaching the parents of the children that go to those schools. And we teach everything from citizenship to GED, and everything in between.
Wow.
So it's been a really been a really good learning experience, and it's also I feel real passionate about it because I think the schools are the heart of a community, and wherever you come from in the world or in the United States, if you have children, usually the first place that you go to something that is community based is school, when you put your kids in school. And so that's been a really fun, interesting, sometimes challenging partnership, but I love it. It's a really good thing. So
Sounds like a win-win all the way for the students who are attending and for their parents who obviously feel at home about a community thing at the place where their kids go to school.
Exactly. And for some of the young moms, They walk their kid to school, and then they stay in school in my class. And it's like they don't have to worry about getting on a bus or picking the kid up, or it's just really nice. Also, we provide and the school and learning lab, we provide childcare. So if some of the moms or dads have little kids, they can bring them with them to school. And then we have a separate little area for the children, and a little separate program for the children, and a separate program for the parents. So it's convenient. It's more convenient if you have children at home to come to school, if you can bring the kids with you. So it's been good.
I appreciate the way you've made it easy for the parents to learn the English language without having to go to a different place or find a place for the kids. It's all happening in this one stop.
Yeah, and it's cool because they meet other parents whose kids also go to that school. And like, one of the really cool experiences I've had there is that sometimes the immigrant parents or the refugee parents, or even the native speakers of English, they don't even know who the principal is. I mean, they know the name, but they've never seen him or her. And so one of the things we do is we take the parents and say, let's go meet Ms. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, because that is the principal.
Right.
Or this is the counselor. Or sometimes we have them come into the classroom and introduce themselves to the parents, because a lot of times people that come from other countries, they don't think that they need to be that involved in the kids' education. It's like you drop them off and the students, the teachers just take over. But in this country, it's not that way. In this country, the schools want the parents to have a presence in the school. And that's a big cultural divide that we try and kind of smooth over. So
I love the way you've done that, between the Learning Lab and the Boise School District, and the fact that a lot of social integration is happening right there.
mm-hmm.
Not only are they learning the language, but they're also learning how do parents get involved in their children's lives
Mm-hmm.
right here. And because I know that was a struggle for me.
Sometimes you get the bulletin from school or the newsletter, and they don't know. And a lot of times, sometimes they also say, well, we send it home in whatever language it is that this parents speak. And we always go, well, is there someone at home who can actually read that language? Because just because you speak it doesn't mean that you went to school and learned how to read it.
Exactly.
So anyway, all those kind of little things that you find out that we try and kind of smooth over, try as much as we can. So it's been pretty good.
That is really commendable. Well, switching gears a little bit, I know that this Saturday we are all going to, well, those of us who signed up will have the pleasure and the delight of cooking with you.
Yay!
Do you mind telling us a little bit about Venezuelan cuisine and how is that different from Mexican? We assume that.
Oh, it's very different. Very, 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 very different. It's interesting because I grew up on the East Coast in New York. Moved to the West Coast. I mean, to the West. I first moved to New Mexico and now in Idaho. And if you speak Spanish and you look like this, people assume that you're from Mexico.
Right.
And they'll say like, oh, do you eat tamales? Do you eat tortillas? Yeah, but that's not what I grew up eating. Anyway, it's different. Venezuela is a Caribbean country. We sit right on the Caribbean coast, not too far away from Aruba. And so we have more of a Caribbean cuisine. And what we're going to be making on Saturday is the national dish of Venezuela. It's called arepa. And arepa is our corn substance. So, every country in Latin America has a corn, something they make with corn that's like a bread. Mm-hmm. So this is what we make. And there's only 2 countries in the world that have arepas, and it's Venezuela and our next door neighbor, Colombia. Mm-hmm. But even that, we make them very different. So an arepa is basically a corn muffin type of thing that you can stuff, you cook and stuff with whatever stuffing your family prefers. It always kind of always involves cheese and then something else. So
Okay.
on Saturday, we're going to make a dinner kind of arepa where we're going to stuff it with stewed chicken and vegetables.
Oh.
You can make arepas for breakfast and stuff them with egg and cheese or ham. You can make them for lunch. So people make them all the time and just put whatever they want inside of it. It's a little bit more substance at dinner time. So that's what the main dish. And then our side dish is called tajadas. And tajadas are very ripe plantains, pan fried and just eaten on the side. And a plantain is a fruit from the banana family, but they're much bigger. And there's two varieties. There's the sweet ones, which are the yellow ones that we're going to use. And then there's the other ones that are green, which you kind of cook the same way, but they're more like a potato.
Okay.
And those usually you eat with fish. You eat that with fish, and then you eat the sweet ones with the arepas. So, yeah.
Nice. So,
other than that, we eat a lot of rice and beans. You know, rice and beans are a staple in Venezuela. A lot of fish because we're a coastal country as well. So, yeah.
now you said that the arepas that the Venezuelans make are different from the arepas that the Colombians make. What's the difference between?
The difference is, so the arepas in Venezuela, you make them with the dough, which is called masarina. And all you add to that dough is water and salt.
Okay.
Then you make your little muffin,
Mm-hmm.
Colombians have the dough, but in their dough, they add eggs, cheese, sometimes butter, sometimes olive oil, and they make the same kind of dough.
Mm-hmm.
They cook it the same way, but they eat it not stuffed.
Oh.
They just eat it like a bread because it's got all the stuff already in it. Once in a while, they'll put something on top of it, but they never open it the way we open it.
Okay.
So it's the same dough prepared a little differently.
Nice. Now, are there any Venezuelan restaurants around here that if somebody doesn't want to go and cook, that somebody can go enjoy Venezuelan food?
No, there aren't. It's so funny because now with all these food trucks, you know, that you see all over the place, I always thought, oh my gosh, it would be great to have an arepa food truck. And I have actually seen them in other bigger cities, but no, Boise does not have any Venezuelan places where you can go and eat Venezuelan food. Only Venezuelan households where you can go and eat Venezuelan food. Boise, when I first moved here 20 years ago, very few Venezuelans.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a little bit more, but compared to other countries that are here, it's a very small population here in Boise.
Wow. Now, I know that we're talking a little bit about the political situation in Venezuela that has pushed some of the residents out, some of the citizens.
Yes. Yeah. So, Venezuela had about 21 years ago a huge flood, and kind of devastated the country at that time. And that's just about the time that I moved to Boise from wherever I was living. I can't remember. But that was also the time when the political situation started shifting in Venezuela. Venezuela has always been a kind of a rich country. It's an OPEC nation, which has a lot of oil, but you could never tell by how it is now. So what happened basically was that all international influences and businesses were pushed out of Venezuela. And so when that happened, there was a big drain of resources and also a brain drain because a lot of people left and the country just could not pick up the pieces. And so it's been politically and economically unstable for the last 25 years. And in the last 10 years, it's gotten very, very difficult because a lot of embargoes have happened in Venezuela. So as happens in so many countries, when this happens, the generals and the powers that be do okay, but the people do not. And a lot of people from Venezuela have left. If they had the money, they left 20 years ago, and they've been continuously leaving. And so now in Boise, we have more people because some people have come to Boise just on like an immigrant visa, and then they ask for asylum because a lot of, especially people who have university degrees or who have worked in as professionals, just are kind of shunned in a way. I don't know what other way of saying it. They just don't have the they don't have jobs. There's no food. There's food shortages. It's crime is very bad. It's not a good situation. And so some people have had their asylum requests granted because of the situation that they came from. So, yeah.
Wow. Now, I know that you said that your parents came here a long time ago to New York. Are they still here in the US?
Well, my parents, when I was in college, decided to go back to Venezuela. And they did. They went back. They left everything in New York. They were sick of being in New York, and they went back home. Right. And while they were there, at that time, my dad passed away. My mom and my little sister were both in Venezuela when this happened, and they stayed in Venezuela until this situation with the political situation and that big flood that happened actually devastated my mom's town in Venezuela. So we brought her to the States because her town pretty much was flooded over. But then while she was coming to the States and going back, this whole political thing started changing, and it was dangerous for her to keep going back and coming. So she has not actually been back there probably in, I'd say probably 7 or 8 years, maybe even 10. I can't even remember. So she's here in the States now, has been for that time. Before she would go back and forth, but not now.
I'm sorry about your father's passing. That is always devastating, regardless of where you come from.
Yeah. So
your mom, so is she here with you, or?
She's not here with me now, but she usually is here about half the year. And she spends the other half with my sister, and my sister lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico now.
Okay.
So my mom is not physically here.
And you also
in Boise.
Okay. You also mentioned your brother. So is your brother still here, or?
No, sadly, my brother also passed 2 years ago, but he was here. He was in Texas.
Okay.
But he passed. Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry about that too. Well, the last question that I wanted to ask is, are these ingredients available locally? Is there a place
that— They are available locally. The only thing that you have to go to a special store, and they're not that special anymore, thank goodness. All the Mexican markets have the special harina pan, which is the flour, the corn meal thing that comes from Venezuela. Okay. And there are a lot more Colombians here in Boise than Venezuelans. So they started getting it when the Colombians were coming, or started coming. So they all have that. A lot of the Asian markets also have it. All the other ingredients you can find at Winco. Winco has them all, except that.
What's special about the harina pan?
It's the way it's processed. Okay. So if you ever made a tortilla or a tamal or any of those Mexican dishes, and you make the dough, it's a lot wetter, and the dough kind of, when you look at it, it's really refined. It's almost like a flour. Okay. The masarina, if you open up the package and touch it, it's almost like sand. Oh, so it's not as refined. It's a little coarser. Okay. Than the masarina that you make Mexican dishes with. So that's the difference. When you when you look at those two corn-based flours, one is very refined and one is coarser. The arepa one is the coarser one, and it's white, not yellow.
Ah,
Yeah, it's made from white corn.
amazing. Now I'm seeing here that there's 2 cups of queso cotija.
And that is the closest queso that you would find in Venezuela. In Venezuela, it's called something else, but this is Mexican, and it's the closest thing to that one that you cannot get in Idaho. It's called queso campesino, which is cheese from the countryside. So like country cheese.
Okay.
What we call it in Venezuela, but this is close to that, but we can't get campesino here. It's close enough, yeah.
Amazing. Well, I can hardly wait for Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And I know that for those people who didn't make it for this first class, there's a second class next weekend.
Next Saturday, the 12th.
So we are so very blessed and lucky to have you for 2 consecutive weekends, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, and it'll be great because when you see this arepa, you will see that you can put anything you like to eat inside there. It doesn't have to be, what we make on Saturday. You can put anything in there, and it's just chicken, really good.
Or
beef, tuna, chicken salad we put in there. It's like yeah, tuna is a big one. Tuna and peas is one of the recipes that goes inside there. But yeah, anything that you like to. Protein. Yeah.
That is amazing. I can hardly wait, and I'm sure we will follow up with you and let you know exactly what else we've been able to do.
Yeah. I also have a little surprise. I'm going to show you a little gadget you can buy that makes it so much easier to make, but we're going to make it the real way.
Gadgets. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lila. I can have a weekend.
All right.
And I wish
good.